Hey, happy Monday. Happy Monday. I am Walt. I'm here with another financial talk video. All right. Today, I want to talk about that $1 million net worth mindset and why that isn't enough in 2026. And what I mean by that is obviously, you know, the one of the big major milestones in someone's life who is going after financial freedom is hitting that $1 million net worth mark. But I think that story is a little bit inconclusive, right? It's this podcast that I watch the last few years every Tuesday where, primarily couples come on and they discuss their psychology around money, the budget, and where they may need to tighten up to live the life that they want. Now, one of the things that I constantly notice in this podcast with the couples that are at $1 million net worth is that, one, they have no savings, and two, they do not have any of their assets generating them any form of income. So, for example, they may have a home worth $800,000. They may have retirement accounts, your traditional 401ks that are worth another $600,000, right? Now, that is, whatever liabilities they have minus those two assets, they're over $1 million net worth. But when you start looking into their budget, how much they're spending to live, they feel like they're broke. And I think the main reason is the mindset needs to shift, right? I think in the very beginning, you're told, buy the home, it'll increase in value, it'll grow your net worth, which is great, and you should have property that can grow you equity and all that good stuff, and you should have a 401k or any form of retirement account that can be used later in life. But that doesn't help in the here and now in 2026. In 2026, if you solely have your net worth tied into a home, if you lose your job or some unexpected expenses come up that you don't have any savings for, or you can't afford based on the savings that you do have, you're going to have to sell that home. And that's only if you're lucky enough to sell that $800,000 home in the current housing market. So you could very well end up going into foreclosure on your biggest asset because a life event happened and you can no longer afford to pay that mortgage. Your 401k, in a situation like that, that family would have to liquidate or start to borrow from that 401k. And not knowing when they may be able to get another job, or not knowing how long they would need to keep extracting from that 401k to live, that will have major impacts for them later down the line when it comes to retirement. And not only that, in both situations, that's going to very much so deteriorate the net worth. I think that the most important thing that we need to think about when we're creating that net worth is what portion of that net worth generates income, right? If 75% of your net worth is tied into the equity of a home, and well, not 70, let's say 75% of your net worth is tied into the equity in your home as well as your 401k, and then you have 25% that's in a brokerage account that is generating you income. I think that is the perfect way to think in 2026. I myself last week got paid out dividends from about 4 or 5 of the companies I own shares in. I made over $642 in that 1 week. And I still have 3 more stocks that will be paying me before the end of this month. Now, in a situation like I described about that family that had that $1 million net worth, but none of it was generating them any income, if they didn't have a fully funded emergency fund, that $600 something, that could be life-saving in the case of a medical bill or some type of loss of job or anything like that, right? It's generating them income, right? If they didn't have an emergency fund, that additional $600 something, a month or for that week, that could go to building an emergency fund. So I just wanted to, come on there and just, give that little nugget, because I think that it's not enough anymore just to have this net worth on paper if it's not generating you any real income, right? If you have to sell your home to live life, if a life event happens, what good is that $1 million net worth? If you have to go into that 401k and start to take money from it before 59 and a half, what good is that $1 million net worth? Those assets, that net worth should be generating you income. Because in any instance, once you retire, especially with a 401k, that's the point of it, is to allow you to generate income. All right, well, let me know what you think. And if you have any questions, I'll make sure to answer them.